音楽ユニットTuyuのプスこと矢野朝也容疑者はおととい、
On the 31st of May, the Japanese police swiftly rushed and broke into Yano Saya's house and arrested him for the attempted murder of his teenage girlfriend. The same person who created and grew the Japanese band called Tuyu from the ground up was now facing up to 50 years in prison and ended the career of his dreams. The same career that he sacrificed everything for. But now you may be asking yourself, how did it come to this? And that's exactly what we will delve into today as we go back in time and discover the history of one of the most popular and now hated J-pop bands on YouTube.
でも私は悔いて叫んで雨が降ってね来て終点の先があるとするならば願っているならもう一回原するよりで初めからやり直させて終点の先なんてありはしないなら私もずっと通して後悔をしているので早まったあの私をどうか抱きしめてよって去って
Born on the 23rd of May 1994, Yano Saya grew up in Okayama and other than that, we don't really have much information about his childhood. So I'll let your guys' imagination run wild. Anyways, as a teenager, Yano was always passionate about music, so much so in fact that he practiced over 20 hours a day, according to his wiki page, and it wasn't until years later that he began creating music on his Twitter account. And while calling it music is a huge overstatement. But nonetheless, his passion was the main reason that drove him to drop out of high school and move to live alone in Osaka at only 16 years old, during which he released more questionable songs on his Twitter account, but sadly none of them gained any traction. Which is why at 18 he began his first career as a vocal producer under the alias called Zips, which, fun fact, came from his band tricks back in high school, and under his new alias he started working on the Heisei project, which is a song series with actual lore. But this time, he wasn't alone. In fact, he worked along with other popular names such as Kairikiwer, Not116, Natsuki, and Fujino Kou, who all played different roles in the series. After he began uploading the first songs of his project on his social media accounts, he gained quite a lot of popularity, so much so that in December 2014, after his second album White Noise released, the entire project got a light novel adaptation called Heisei Tormentation that got published by this company right here, which I'm not even gonna try to pronounce. Anyways, needless to say that this further expanded his influence, and exactly thanks to his increased fanbase, an illustrator called Omotatsu used one of these songs in a compilation video for Hatsune Miku's 10th anniversary. And this may seem unrelated now, but it will be relevant later, so keep that in mind. Not all was smooth sailing though, as a couple of months later his views started to become stale, mostly due to the vocaloid genre slowly dying, which means that he needed a new formula to succeed, and in response on December 10, 2015, Zips would change his name to Pusu, as he hopped on the Uta Easy trend, which is basically when people cover popular songs. And of course, this change marked the premature end of the Heisei project, which received a proper goodbye video a whole 4 years later in 2019, in which he stated that what he did was wrong, though never actually specifying what that was. Anyways, Pusu started his new career off strong by releasing his first CD called Phantasphere, which, even though it has some very questionable songs, it still did great, which was the validation Pusu needed to drop 2 more albums and to even go on tour, in which he mostly promoted himself, something that only brightened his future. However, after the tour, his mental health wasn't the best, and even though he deleted the proof, we still have these tweets commenting about him. They're in Japanese, but luckily the Big Fish translated it for you guys. The first one just says how mentally unstable he was, while this one right here just says how much he likes mental health patients. So yeah, these tweets don't seem much by themselves, but luckily Pusu also released this song around this time, which helps us understand the situation better. And because this song is in Japanese, I'll just show you the translated lyrics. They're not the best, but pause if you want to read them. But regardless, his mental health improved over time, and on June 12, 2019, he formed the band that we all know him for, Tuyu, which consists of him being the music composer and guitarist, Rei as the singer, Miro as the pianist, Otatsu as the illustrator, and Aziun as the video editor. And their website states that the name of the band comes from the Japanese word Rei season, during which it was formed, which is, by the way, a great fun fact as most songs are themed around it. And sure enough, it quickly became a huge success, getting constantly ranked highly in both Japanese and foreign music distribution. And all of this was mostly thanks to their relatability with the audience, as most songs talk about dark themes such as depression and isolation. However, they don't just describe the sadness, but instead they also include the regret of the past and the worry for the future. I think that their lyrics really delve deeper, exploring the complicated emotions that we all bottle up and often just struggle to articulate. And if you sprinkle some catchy music on top, well, then it automatically becomes a recipe for success. But this is just my personal opinion, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. The following months after the creation of the band were stellar, as they climbed rankings by releasing 12 songs, one full album, and even going on multiple tours throughout Japan. But of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, because fans mocked Pusu for being fat in their merch shop. Alright, let's keep the jokes aside for now, because on January 23rd, 2022, Omotatsu, the illustrator for Tuyu, left the band. Initially, no reason was given, but she later revealed in her fanbox, which is basically Japanese Patreon, how Pusu mistreated and underpaid her, while at the same time denying her royalties for their works in the merch shop, which is, by the way, illegal under Japanese laws. But that's not all, as around the same time, Miro found out that Pusu was selling his piano collection without his permission. Pretty classic Pusu behavior at this point. But what did Pusu say to defend himself, you may ask? Well, absolutely nothing, as he just announced Omotatsu's graduation. Right now, I'm about 10% sure that a few of you guys were wondering about his situation at school. And well, unsurprisingly, during elementary and middle school, he was one of those edgy boys who acted as if they were part of the streets. I'm sure you know which people I'm talking about. And here in northern Italy, we call this type of kids maranza. Anyways, let's get back to the main topic now. Going forward, the following months, the people seem to give Pusu a second chance, as the band released new songs and collabed with multiple big companies, such as the company behind Hatsune Miku, Krypton Future Media, and the Leiden Films, the company behind Tokyo Revengers. However, just as Tuyu was getting back on track, Pusu just had to make another poor decision, as he sold out to the Japanese record label company known as Body Canyon, despite him stating in a previous stream how much he despises this type of companies, as they often restrict the artistic freedom of their own talents. But this was nothing compared to what was gonna happen next. Because on July 23rd, 2023, right after their third album released, they went on their 5th tour. And like usual, they started selling new merch, but this time it was different, as the fans literally got their CDs delivered taped inside a pizza box. Yes, you heard me right. And many people were now thinking that Pusu was just a greedy sellout. And the reasonably so. I mean, how is he even gonna come up with any excuses? And later that year, this small gossip quickly turned out to be real, as Pusu started shamelessly showing off on his Instagram account the two Lamborghinis he had bought. But then, as the storm died down, there wasn't much activity anymore. The official YouTube account wasn't posting anything, and it really looked like it was finally over. But then, just as all hope was lost, nearly a year after their latest music video, a new one finally released, and the fans were ecstatic. Maybe it wasn't over. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a light in the darkness. But of course, as you probably saw from the thumbnail, something really bad was about to happen. It wasn't Miro's graduation from Tuyu, and it certainly wasn't his silly petition I found, but instead it was something that seemingly just came out of nowhere. Pusu's arrest. Apparently, Pusu planned to stab his girlfriend before doing that to himself, but he just couldn't go through with it. And the other band members were just flabbergasted at first, but a few days later they left us their final words in this translated post. So needless to say, it was finally too over. So, oh yeah, thank you Yesa-chan for helping me with the research, thank you Rissan for making the thumbnail and this cool title, and also special thanks to Veto, cause why not? And remember, iscriviti per un pesce in bocca.